Health experts are calling it an unusual flu season. Reporter Pafua Yang joins us now to tell us why this year is different compared to other flu seasons. Pafua?
Shannon, the Minnesota Health Department reports seeing a big wave of flu-like illnesses a bit earlier than normal, and that's not all that's different. 167 schools around the state reported flu-like illnesses the week before winter break. That compares to 60 outbreaks the previous week. Something else that's unusual is the type of flu that's spreading. Typically, health officials will see influenza A as the dominant strain. Now they're seeing a dominant influenza B, which hasn't happened since the early 90s.
And what's interesting about that is when influenza B is the dominant virus that circulates, we tend to see more disease in children and young adults. And so that's exactly what's playing out with the outbreaks. We've had quite a few outbreaks in the school setting, but in contrast, last week we only had one outbreak in long-term care facilities.
Type B influenza tends to impact children more than adults. Health officials hope the holiday break will help slow the number of flu cases at school. While the virus is widespread, health officials say it's not too late to get a flu shot. Shannon?
Thank you, Pafua. Authorities have identified a person killed in a vehicle crash in Plymouth as a man from Maple Grove. 55-year-old Douglas Miller died when his SUV was struck by a semi-tractor trailer. It happened shortly before 9 a.m. on Tuesday at the intersection of Highway 55 and County Road 101. Miller died at the scene. Plymouth police continue to investigate the cause of the crash. In Osseo, repairs are needed after a driver crashed into this building on New Year's Eve. One of the front windows of Masterson's Staffing Solutions will have to be replaced. According to a police report, the driver says his boot got stuck under the gas and brake pedals, and the vehicle continued forward, hitting the building. No one was hurt in that incident. A widely used local transit station is getting a makeover. Reporter Sonia Goen shows us what's on tap for the Brooklyn Center Transit Center.
With the new C-Line rapid bus system in operation, the Brooklyn Center station has seen an uptick in traffic.
It's one of our busiest facilities that we have.
But all that traffic is tough on the overall building aesthetics.
When you have a transit center that's been used as much as this has, it can come to look used. And it needs a facelift once in a while.
Transit officials are doing more than a facelift. They're also looking at improving the functionality as well. The plan is to renovate restrooms and add several other upgrades.
So we're going to do the lighting, we're going to replace some of the benches, so new concrete, and then just improve some of the accessibility to it.
The project also includes adding more canopies at either end of the plaza. Customers will also see more bike racks and crosswalks.
We might not be able to give everybody every single thing they want, but we know that we're going to make it a better transit center for so many of our riders who use this station and really depend on it.
The makeover is part of the Metro Transit capital improvement budget.
We're making a lot of investments in order to ensure that that serves the public well.
In Brooklyn Center, Sonia Goins, CCX News.
Metro Transit is asking for feedback on the upgrades, and we'll have a link on how you can do that on our website, ccxmedia.org. And speaking of feedback, a local nonprofit is helping Metro Transit determine how to better meet the needs of transit users. Resource West in Hopkins is among 13 organizations taking part in Metro Transit's 2-year effort to develop a new vision for the bus network. It's called Network Next. The organizations gathered feedback on how transit can be improved. Metro Transit will use the information to draft improvements and possible expansions of local and express bus routes.
A very similar thread of story that we heard is underlying of like, do they see me, do they hear me, and do they care? And so I think this is a really great way to partner with maybe perhaps larger organizations like Metro Transit, that their bandwidth to like get one-on-one with people is just not there for good reason. But that's where we can come in and help be a bridge to let residents say, we hear you, we see you, and you are important.
Metro Transit's final plan is expected for consideration and adoption by the Met Council next year. A Twin Cities broadcasting legend from Golden Valley has died. Barry ZeVan, a longtime weatherman and entertainer, passed away on New Year's Day, leaving behind a bevy of broadcasters who worked with him, including a stint right here at CCX Media.
It was great seeing Barry around the studios here. He always had a smile on his face. Staff loved working with him, and it was just a unique personality.
CCX Media Executive Director Mike Johnson remembers watching ZeVan on local stations when he was a kid. And after a long career as an entertainer and a weatherman for KSTP and KARE 11, among others, Barry still had the TV bug. ZeVan recorded retro weather segments at our studios, forecasting weather the way he used to do it decades ago, writing directly on a map. Launched in April, Retro Weather already had hundreds of viewers when its final episode appeared just last week, showing Barry ZeVan still had star power. That was almost surprising to him, too, who talked about people recognizing him around town in an interview just last June.
I never thought I was anything special. And I really mean that. And for people to take their time to compliment you and to be nice to you, it still blows my mind.
With news of his passing, praise for his life's work is rolling in, and not just for the weather. ZeVan also produced a number of documentaries, including one focusing on how Native Americans have lost land through government actions for more than a century, a work that won him a Telly Award. The new year provided good fortune to the owner of a winning lottery ticket in Brooklyn Center. State lottery officials say 2 people won $1 million in the January 1st Minnesota Millionaire Raffle drawing. One of the winning tickets was sold at the Brooklyn Center Cub Foods. It continued a hot streak for 7-figure lottery wins in the state. Over the last 3 weeks, 3 other lottery tickets sold in Minnesota won at least $1 million.
The new year kicked off in a great way for the University of Minnesota football team. The Gophers got big contributions from 3 defensive players from the Northwest Suburbs in their Outback Bowl victory over Auburn. Senior linebacker number 41 Thomas Barber, Armstrong High School graduate and Plymouth native, recovered a muffed punt early in the game to gain possession for the Gophers. Barber also had an impressive tackle for loss in his final game as a college player. Number 90, Sam Renner of Maple Grove, a former walk-on, contributed a sack early in the second half of the Gophers. Renner also went out in style in his last game in a Minnesota uniform. And number 34, Boya Mafe, a redshirt sophomore who played for Hopkins High School, had a sack right before halftime in the Gophers' 31-24 Outback Bowl victory over Auburn. After a season-opening loss to Hopkins, the Armstrong boys basketball team has rattled off 7 wins in a row. As Jay Wilcox reports, the Falcons are looking to build on the strong start as the schedule grows tougher.
There's a lot to like so far for Armstrong. They admittedly aren't a finished project, but have played well.
We've got a ways to go, I think, chemistry-wise. Got some new pieces this year, but we've got 3 guys that were major part of the team last year back, and that always helps.
And those 3 returning regulars are leading the way for the Falcons. Point guard Jake Breitbach is averaging 15 points, with Hezekiah Ayawe at 13 points per game and Adam Bewin scoring 12. It's the second year in Coach John Bryant's system, and that's helped.
Because last year it was a brand new system we were getting used to, and now especially the returning players, we're used to how he wants us to play.
Yeah, defensively we've been pretty good all year. Offensively we've got a ways to go from an efficiency standpoint, execution standpoint. So I'm hoping that we can kind of correct some of that this week where we don't have a game.
The Falcons won 2 holiday tournament games last week at Bethel, not getting challenged a whole lot.
Yeah, that was a really fun tournament. We got the chance to play a lot of the role players that come off the bench for us and some of the JV. So it was fun getting them in and just getting our confidence up for conference play.
They do have a few quality wins over teams like Champlin Park and Minnetonka, but the Falcons know the schedule gets tougher, including next week's matchup with second-ranked Park Center.
Totino's going to be a real tough one on Tuesday. We're looking at that game right now. Park Center obviously is super talented. I don't think there's another team in the state more talented than them.
The Falcons have been under the radar so far, and that's fine with them. But if the wins keep piling up, they'll be tough to ignore. Jay Wilcox, CCX Sports.
We'll have the Park Center Armstrong game for you on CCX Sports next Thursday, January 9th. Armstrong was the only team to beat Park Center in the regular season a year ago. Choosing the right color of lure can make a big difference in how many fish you land when out ice fishing. Here's Terry Tuma with his first tip of 2020.
There have been so many questions recently about color selection for fishing in the wintertime, especially for crappies and sunfish. Does color matter? Absolutely, color is a big factor. In fact, according to some tests done by fish biologists, game fish are able to decipher color more so than the human eye can. And then crappies, first of all, crappies can see 100 feet away. They can identify color choices up to 15 feet away, and they can tell the difference between chartreuse and yellow. To answer that specific question, what color do you start with? What's your favorite color? To be very honest with you, all colors are very, very much of a factor in our tackle boxes. I, generally speaking, will take 2 or 3 or 4 rods, maybe even up to 5 or 6, depending on the outing, and then have all those rigged up with different colors. It's strictly amazing how one color can be productive one day, even 1 hour, then you switch to another color, and that color takes precedence. So here again, you have to be versatile, work with colors, but always pick out your lure first and then fine tune with color.
That's all for sports. More news in a moment.